obviously last year's start was tremendous for us to get going. We certainly we went through a stretch where their play deteriorated quite a bit, but this I think this group bringing in 5 or 6 new faces will help. Hopefully not allow some of that stuff to happen. I think that I talked about last year a few times that it's frustrating when everybody talked about December being a tough month, and sure enough we had a bad December. And I think that when you bring new personnel in, I think that our message coming out of training camp is it's 82 games, and if you start to look at 82, you're going to have a long year. And I think when we were 14-6, we were thinking about March and we were thinking about April. When coming out of training camp, all we're going to worry about is, again, it's going to be worry about Nashville on the first game of the season, and then when we're done with them, we move on to Minnesota. I've talked often last year about staying in the now, not getting too far ahead of ourselves, and I think at times last year maybe I allowed it. Maybe it's a little bit of our history here is that we get thinking too much about the big picture and not focusing on what you can control, and that's pretty much what's happening today. And I'd like to think that, Vinny Prospal, it's won a Stanley Cup. Jeff Carter, who's been to the Stanley Cup, Wisniewski, who's played in real good hockey teams, that they have the experience to sort of help this group at those times when times start to become tough. Well, a lot of that will rely on our young players. I think the Johanssons, the Kabaliks, the Matty Calverts, the Atkinson. It depends what that lineup is. I mean, it's easy to say that I want to throw 9 offensive guys out there, but we don't know how they're going to play in training camp. I mean, that'll be left up to them. If they make it very difficult on us, come October, when we're in cut-down mode and we've got these guys here because they've been very good through training camp, it gives us a real good option to play that way. So at the end of the day, for me, it's the players decide it. They're going to decide in camp. Nobody's given anything. Like I said earlier, Scott stood up last year at the meeting and he said that even though there were all the one-way contracts, jobs were open for those that came and put their best foot forward. And like I said, some guys made our hockey team that probably many weren't expecting. The same thing happens this year. We need to play the people, reward the people that come in and play hard and play well and earn a job.
Christian got hurt and was sort of mulling it over in my mind. Didn't think we had the right opportunity for him because I knew he was going to really be focused on playing in a top 6 role, and I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do that. And then when Christian got hurt, that's when it just seemed like a natural fit. We looked at 5 or 6 guys at that time. There were some unrestricted free agents out there, and he just went right to the top of the list. It was unanimous. I phoned Scott, and he looked at him too and said, let's try and get this guy. So we just think he's going to come in and fill that role. He's a different player than Christian. He's a little stronger, probably physically. Christian's got world-class skill, obviously. So he's just going to come in, I think, and it'll be up to Scott and up to Vinny to where he plays, but we certainly see him in that top scoring role.
I think one thing about Vinny, he can play both sides. I think that he's a guy that is real strong on the puck. Like I said earlier, he's won a cup. He's had experience. One thing about him, up until last year, he's played close to 82 games. I think he's 30 games away from 1,000 in his career, which says an awful lot. He's been around. He's been a lot of experience, a lot of different situations. I know John Tortorella is very upset that he's losing him from the Rangers this year. They had to sign so many of their young guys that he squeaked through the cracks for us. But real professional, a guy that for me, whether it's with Carter and Nash or whether it's with Vermette, Umberger, Brassard, I'm not sure yet. That's going to be all of the fun part of kind of training camp. I'm going to use guys in different roles and kind of really get a feel for where I see that chemistry early on, and they have a tendency sometimes to slot themselves in those spots.
You're always concerned. I mean, one of the goals to get through training camp healthy, and the owners tournament is something that's we really like. The owners really like it. I think it gives the guys a little excitement, a little energy right away. We did push it back from day 1 to day 2 to give the guys a chance to skate a little bit, but it's always a risk. But somebody can get hurt in a drill too. So I don't think in our tournament we've seen. The players have competed very hard, but there's been no maliciousness. So it is what it is. And if somebody gets hurt, he could have got hurt in a drill too.
And I think the other thing too, because we play 3 games in 2 days, 3 days after camp opens up, it gets these guys kind of in that game mode. I know they're skating now and they're they're doing their off ice, on ice stuff, but that little tournament will get some thinking more about structure, a little bit more about style of play, and a little bit more game-like, and hopefully it helps us a little bit in those first couple of games.
Well, I think the NHL's been ahead of the curve in this baseline neuropsych testing. So it's mandatory for the players. Any player entering the league has to have it, and then you have a normal line to compare off of. So I don't think that's going to change. They're very vigilant in making sure the players do it. I don't know if the game's going to get called differently. I would suspect it wouldn't. We have changed Rule 48 to now penalize a hit that's head-on, that's either targeted the head or directly hit to the head, and that's different from Rule 48 last year. So that part will get called differently. But I think the players are gaining more and more respect for each other too, and trying to be careful with their heads.
I think there is one, right near the end of the year, the change where they made with the medical personnel, where if anybody showed any signs of wobbling, can't get up, or obviously, I'm not sure exactly what they do. They really work with the doctors and the trainers of putting a set of rules in there, and you have to take your 15 minutes if they feel that you might have been lost maybe consciousness or whatever. You got to go for 15 minutes automatic, no matter if you're on the road and it's a visiting team doctor looking at you, or you're at home. So, and then from there, whether you're allowed to come back would be up to that doctor.